I wonder if you could speak more, one, about how you're going about that, and then maybe we could talk about, well, I'll start there. Like could you speak to your passion around bringing more, how you're bringing more awareness to people so that they can fall in love or
Yeah.
that we can steward the earth?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, it's such a, it's a very, it's a complex issue, and
Yeah.
it's difficult partly because it's so massive, it's overwhelming, and it's, and for many of us, it's hard to think about what's the best node of interception. Like, how do you make a difference? How do you engage? And there's lots of, wonderful people and organizations and doing, helping people respond to that. And I think for me, and I've done various kind of activism, grassroots. I've been, remember in the days of old when the headwaters redwood forests were being cut down, there was huge demonstrations, and I'd be up there a lot. And so there's different ways we can engage. And I think, as I've been teaching more, and one thing that's clear to me is just to be clear about knowing what one's calling is, or what one's gift is, or what one's skill set is, right? And you can't do everything. You can do one tiny, tiny, tiny little piece that's, an expression of your care and your individuality. And so for me, and I think it involves a few things. One is it involves not going to sleep. So it means staying informed, paying attention, reading the hard news. And it's really painful to read the news and stay current to what's happening ecologically, because the data is pretty bleak. And then the second thing is, for me, it's been reflecting on, well, what's my particular gift is, I'm trained in meditation, I've trained in teaching meditation, I've trained in taking people out into the woods. And that feels like my biggest gift. It's not saving an explicit forest per se, but I feel like the work that I do is helping people, deepen their connection to the earth, deepen their love of the earth, reflect on how they might be better stewards. So I kind of think of it as an indirect activism. And of course, one of the shifts that we know needs to happen is a radical shift in consciousness, particularly around how we feel separate, how we feel other than the earth, other than nature. And so when we go into nature with a contemplative presence, we can start to shed that sense of human hubris, separation, individualism, isolation, and othering. And I think that's an important shift that has to happen globally, but it also happens one person at a time. And then I talk about it, So 10 years ago, I talk about climate change, and when I was in the meditation room, the room would just glaze over it with this kind of numbness. And then 5 years ago, people start to pay a little more interest, because the fires had started here, like really raising their ugly heads. And then now I talk about it, and people mostly want to hear about it because it is pressing in on us in every way. And so I think it's a duty for all of us, whatever role we're in, is to speak about it, to talk about it with our neighbors, with our friends, with our families who may have very different political perspectives. And also because I have a pulpit as a teacher, it's important for me to use that and to talk about, the reality of climate change. Not that people don't know about it, but also how does our spiritual practice relate to that? Because if it's not relating to that, then what's the point? If we're practicing for nirvana and the very place that we live in is not going to be, able to support life in a few decades, then what's the point? So that there has to be related. So I think there's some of the ways that I work with it. And at the same time, I struggle every day with wanting to do more and feeling like I'm not doing enough. And, I'm wanting to find land where I can grow more food and have a more intimate relationship with the earth. and try to do what I can to live simply and live lightly. I think that's important. But I think it's also important that we focus on the political systems and the economic systems that really are causing much of the damage, and to see what we can do to bring change there.